So we're going to start the webinar right now, and as people join, we can always send them the recording afterwards. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We have an exciting webinar talking to 3 senior consultants. I'm going to go through some housekeeping items first, and then we can go through who will be joining us today. First, for the panelists, if you guys could keep yourself muted on your phone until we direct a question to you, that'd be very helpful. Thank you. After the webinar ends, it will take a couple of days for the attendees to receive the recordings, but be sure we will be sending those to you. And there will be time for questions from attendees at the end of the webinar. We will be tracking these throughout the session and then asking them about 15 minutes before the webinar closes. So now on to who will be attending with us today. So for our panelists, we have 3 lovely people joining us. The first being Dave Ellis. Dave is a chemical engineering consultant with more than 25 years of experience in the wastewater industry. Is a prime example for someone who values the importance of self-investment in their consulting career. David's passion for clean tech and wastewater, his tools for improving lives, protecting the environment, combined with his knack for personalized communication, led him to launch Azura Associates International, Inc. Next, we have Meredith Hamstead. Meredith is an independent consultant with a 15-year consulting career. She currently specializes in sustainable community development, and through her independent consulting firm, Think Bright Environmental Innovations. Meredith partners with a diverse range of professionals to deliver sustainability projects in water conservation, green building, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and sustainable land use planning. With passion for a bright future, Meredith has dedicated her career to the pursuit of sustainability solutions that meet the needs of small, rapidly changing Canadian communities. And lastly, we have Bill McMillan. He's an engineering project manager and a people leader with highly developed technical communication, project management, and leadership skills. Bill's experience include business functional financial management, client and project change management, contract and specifications development, and construction management. His technical expertise spans environmental, geotechnical, civil, and water management engineering, as well as clean water and contaminated hydrogeology. Bill is a seasoned public and private sector leader focused on successfully driving technical, financial, and organizational innovations and excellence. As well as a people manager, he employs a collaborative team approach to mentor and motivate staff and colleagues to promote professional and personal growth. You also have myself, Yana J., and Craig here, and I will now pass it over to him to start the panel discussion.
Okay, panelists, the first question that we have is, what kind of consulting do you do, and what does your organization do? We'll let Meredith start, please.
Hi, Craig. Thank you very much.
Hi.
My consulting firm, as it said in the intro, is independent. Almost all of my clients are either local governments, for example, regional districts and municipalities, or provincial government agencies. And I work with those clients, sometimes nonprofits as well, to identify sustainability objectives and develop solutions to sustainability challenges that are facing those communities. So it's really, most of the work that I do puts me in the middle as a translator and knowledge broker between experts like the other 2 panelists, engineers, and my clients need information and solutions to emerging challenges. And maybe the last thing I'll say there is that really a lot of the work that I do, because my clients are government-oriented, is driven by emerging regulatory and economic environments.
Okay, great. How about you, Bill?
Well, I think I'm the odd. Whoop.
Okay. In the meantime, well, David, could you answer it?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, Bill, we're good.
Okay, sorry. Trying to figure out how to work this thing. So I guess I'm a bit of an odd man out. I work for one of the largest engineering companies in the world. We're about 37,000 people. We do engineering, science, survey, planning, project management, and since we're consultants, anything else you'd like us to do. My background is sort of more in environmental, geotechnical, water resources, although I've worked in many different areas, which is helpful when you're in consulting, particularly in small market consulting, like Atlantic Canada or other places in rural Canada.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. How about you, David?
Thanks, Craig. Bit of a lighthearted answer. I say I'm more of a sleep specialist, and by that I say I help plant managers, maintenance supervisors, people with factories. I help them sleep well, making sure that their wastewater systems are running smoothly, that there's no process upsets, that they're staying in compliance with their regulations and with their permits, and their business is running along smoothly, and they're able to do whatever their core business is, whether it's baking or making automobiles or French fries, you name it, without worrying and without the headaches of taking care of their regulations on the other side.
Okay, thank you. So, David, then, how has the consulting landscape changed over the last couple of years in your region?
From what I've seen is mergers and acquisitions. It's always a part of the industry, and be very interested to hear what the other panelists had to say as well. From what I've seen, at least, was the pendulum swings back and forth between owner-manager-based consulting firms that typically will grow into tens and dozens of people and maybe 100 or a few hundred, to those companies potentially selling when the principals are interested in retiring and being gobbled up by larger multinational firms. And that's pretty common. So I think where we're at today, I would say the pendulum has swung more towards the large multinational firms. There's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions over the past, ongoing over the past 25 years, but I think that certainly accelerated in the past 8. Okay. I expect we'll see more of that.
Meredith, what are your thoughts on that?
I think as an independent consultant, for me, the biggest change that I have experienced is that 15 years ago, generally my clients weren't very happy to see me. They didn't understand what services I could provide, and they weren't convinced that it was worth paying to have someone come and talk to them about a variety of sustainability challenges and solutions. I think the conversation, whether it's on climate change, water conservation, sustainable land use, has become more mainstream, and as a result, logically, but importantly, less fringe-oriented. There's a higher degree of professionalism in the sustainability industry, I guess, or sector of the industry. And our clients have a much better understanding of why they might actually be happy to see us coming, and are getting a better handle on the language of sustainability and the opportunities presented by applying a sustainability lens to the work that they are already doing. So a huge shift in perspective. That has translated into a shift in ability to earn a living in the sustainability field generally, positively speaking.
Okay. Thanks, Meredith. Bill, what kinds of industry trends or changes are you seeing in the sector, and what's driving the change?
Well, I guess I'd echo what David said in terms of increasing consolidation into sort of large public companies. Which, in a way provides more one-stop shopping for clients, but there's also less opportunity for small sort of generalized companies. And I hear what Meredith is saying, because she's pretty much in a niche market there. And I think there are niche market opportunities out there. It may take some marketing and some patience, like apparently it has taken Meredith to get where she's at. But I also agree with David in that we've seen this trend over probably the last 20 years and accelerating over the last 10. But now you're starting to see fragmentation, people leaving the large companies because they're dissatisfied with whatever, the way things go in large companies or pay or whatever it is, and they're starting to strike out on their own and sort of get into these sort of niche markets. The only advantage that you have as a small company, unless you're in a niche market, is you can probably provide lower rates and cheaper prices, but hopefully that's not where our industry is striving to go.
Okay. David, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Bill made some excellent points. I think both Meredith and myself, we're in niche areas, so I'm very small. I've myself and one other full-time new grad position with me right now. I use quite a few independent contractors, so on larger projects, I can field a team of 30 staff, but not 300. There's a lot of things that that I cannot pursue as a niche player, where certainly any of the multinationals, any organization with more than 5,000 people can pursue some things that I can't. And definitely I think part of that drivers is demographic. As the smaller firms, those people sell to larger firms and have some type of exit strategy. And then people like me eject and fragment and start smaller niche firms again. So that cycle continues on. I think there is interest in bigger projects. So whether it's a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar mining pipeline, some sort of resource development, or roads, airports, infrastructure, sewage treatment, water treatment plants, the larger the projects, the larger the team you need to execute. And I can consult on a sewage treatment plant, but I can't build a $100 million plant. I don't have the resources to do that. And so I think as companies hire companies more so, that fragment or that piece of the work goes towards larger companies. And in my situation, it's people hiring people. The plant manager calls me because they know me. They've known me for years, and they know when they're in hot water who they can call to sort them out. So I think a little bit of that shift is, if you're a multinational yourself, you want to hire another major multinational firm.
Meredith, have you noticed any industry trends or things that have changed?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Craig, the big one that I would have wanted to highlight here, I've already spoken to around elevation of the conversations around and within the sustainability field. I think there is a trend that is somewhat concerning from my perspective about increasing specialization that is not coupled with development of skills in communication, collaboration, project management. It can be, I mean, there are obviously benefits to increasing specialization in the environment industry, but there are also some significant challenges with that. And I guess I would say that specialists need generalists and vice versa on projects. If you have a whole team of specialists or only a specialist working on a single project, I think that often too much gets left out and perspectives are too narrow. So I certainly would advocate strenuously and regularly for cross-sector collaboration and innovation in the environment industry.
Okay. So then, for your field, what kinds of skills are critical for consultants, in your opinion, with that being said?
Well, I guess that depends if you're a specialist or a generalist. I am a generalist in the sustainability field. I'm a social scientist. My real strength as a consultant comes in broad science literacy, you know, honed communication skills, a variety of communication skills, collaboration, project management, financial management. But all of that is not particularly useful if I'm not able to access really skilled specialist professionals in fields relevant to whatever project I'm working on. So right now I lead a 5-member team. I'm the project coordinator. I have a communication specialist. I have a climate scientist, climate change adaptation specialist, and a climate change mitigation specialist. And so I have to be able to understand well enough that what they do that I can support them to do it more effectively as a team than they could individually. So, you know, obviously my focus is on the generalist project management side of things. I think whether you are a specialist in the environment field or a generalist, communication skills, effective communication skills that include science translation, relationship development are absolutely essential. Writing skills, whether you are an engineer or a general project manager, are absolutely essential and are, I think, in my experience, are becoming increasingly undeveloped. And financial management skills, the ability to develop a budget and execute a budget is absolutely essential. Those things are required regardless of what your passion or particular area of expertise is. And those, I believe, are the things that will carry a consultant, whether they're in a big firm or an independent firm, will carry a consultant the farthest.
Okay.
I don't know if
Bill, what are your thoughts on?
Have a different take on that.
Bill, what are your thoughts on what skills are critical for consultants?
Critical skills. Well, I guess I kind of chime in along with what Meredith is saying in that technical skills are always useful, but soft skills tend to be rare with engineer and science types. I would agree with what Meredith said in terms of it becomes, I like your term, increasingly less developed or underdeveloped with a lot of the people that we see coming in the door as juniors. Writing skills are not necessarily great. It's the ability to organize, communicate, build relationships, et cetera, is certainly critical to consulting, but they also want you to have some kind of technical knowledge behind you to go along with those skills. And in this industry, really, and Meredith alluded to this, project management is king. You have to be able to deliver a project on time and on budget. You have to be able to understand what costs are coming toward you when you're doing a project estimate, and you also have to be able to deal with change management during a project. Working with your client, having a relationship with your client, a trusting relationship, that when you go to them and say, look, this happened and it's going to affect budget or schedule, if they don't trust that you know what you're doing, you're going to be in for a battle. And if they do, they'll probably accept what you're saying.
Okay. The next question that we have is for all three of you is, how do you keep current in the industry and what kinds of professional development do you do? We'll start with David, please.
Excellent. Okay. In terms of professional development, I'll speak first to the amount of professional development. I routinely take one formal course a year, and that's not a huge time commitment. It's one night a week, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, once a year. So I do that as formal professional development. One thing, so the course I'm doing right now, for example, is through Dale Carnegie. They have a number of courses on teaching and communication, human relations, management, marketing, sales, leadership, those types of courses. So that's what I'm doing right now. On the technical side, there I tend to read quite a bit. That's my nature. I'm a fairly voracious reader, so I subscribe to a number of hard copy journals. I prefer not to read those online, but sitting on the couch and skimming through a number of industry journals on wastewater, as well as on different client sectors, as well as food industry, understanding what's happening in the meat industry, for example, things of that nature. So through journals, podcasts, and then formalized courses.
Okay, how about you, Meredith? How do you keep current in the industry, and what types of professional development do you do?
This is a real challenge for me. I live in a very rural area. My community is 3,000 people. I'm 3 hours from the nearest international airport. And so access to courses, face-to-face courses, which is my preferred mode of learning, is extremely limited. So I have to be creative. I try and participate in conferences, not just as an attendee, but as a panelist or presenter at every opportunity I can. I find that the best way for me to learn in my field is to consider my audience, to better understand what I already know, and to find ways to deliver content that is useful to a wide range of audiences. I mean, there are obvious benefits to conference participation, but I think that by participating formally, not only are you sharing knowledge, but you are absolutely required to build your own knowledge in a really meaningful way. My strategy, another strategy I employ, which I'm actually not sure I can recommend. Maybe you have some very resilient participants on the phone here, but I change topics as often as I can. If I see an opportunity to work with a team on a topic that I know fairly little about, but that the team is strong enough that I can bring my strength in project management and my broad generalist knowledge to, I will jump at that opportunity every time. It is just absolutely terrifying, but the opportunity to expand knowledge and remain current because of novelty is something that I take advantage of whenever I can. I think staying current in the environment industry is an ongoing, very pressing challenge, whether you're part of a big firm or independent, because this field is moving very rapidly. And so any topic you want to touch on, the field is shifting, and you better be reading a lot.
Right. What are your thoughts on that, Bill?
Yeah, I tend to agree with the other two panelists on that. Like, you've got to be reading all the time, as David says, and you've got to be looking for opportunities to work with new projects, new topic areas, new groups. It's a great way to learn. So one of the benefits of being in a large company is that there's substantial internal training. That type of training tends to focus on operations management, project management, and risk management, and those types of things that affect the company and the bottom line. So that's a negative from the perspective of there's less emphasis on technical training. So you pretty much got to look after yourself with regard to that. Look for courses, formal courses or seminars or conferences. Participation in those types of things is always better, as Marilyn points out. I always find that professional organizations, I sympathize with you, Marilyn, having lived way out in the country for a number of years, but professional organizations, if you're in a center, provide great opportunities that are inexpensive. If you can find the time to go, it's certainly worthwhile. And it also leads to connections and networking opportunities with fellow professionals that may lead to other opportunities that you might not otherwise see.
Okay. So, Bill, then, do you have any tips for young people who are struggling to get into the business? Like, what advice would you give them?
First of all, diversify your skill set. Certainly in small market, but I think in anything, any area that you're working or any place that you're working, having a diversified skill set is very useful. You're available to many different teams, and that's part of what Marilyn was asserting to earlier. And then be assertive, show initiative. Offer to work on internships or through school programs or anything, any kind of program that you can get your foot in the door and show your skills. Co-op programs are also great for this. You know, we said earlier that writing skills and the softer skills, communication, relationship building, all that type of thing, very important. David is glad to hear that you're a Dale Carnegie person. I'm a graduate of the program as well, and I took the program because I realized that in this business, that was probably one of my weaker areas, and a little bit of a funny story, because at the end of it, everybody in the class stands up and tells a story about what they learned. To a person, everybody stood up and said, "Oh, I feel so much more confident. I could be more assertive." I stood up and said, "Yeah, well, I learned when to shut up." So, you know, everybody gets something different out of the course.
Right, right. David, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any tips for young people that are struggling to get into the industry?
Definitely. I think the other presenters as well, I would echo what they said. The diversity and versatility is key. In the consulting business, we don't necessarily control exactly what opportunities come in the door. And if you're very keen on drinking water, but your firm has landed a great big sewage project, if you can't or don't want to work on the sewage project, then you don't get fed that day, and that's a real problem. And so being able to take a core skill set and apply it, whether it's to drinking water, to wastewater, to even look at groundwater, remediation, surface water, other types of applications that build around your core strength, whatever your academic background is, ensures in the work sense, you're an omnivore. You can work on a number of different things. You're not just limited to only one thing. So to get foot in the door, being technically diverse, enthusiasm, willing to jump into new things where you're not an expert, you don't have a background, say, in drinking water, but you're willing to jump into it and you'll learn. I think having the ability and the interest to recognize a little bit on the financial side that if you're jumping into an area that's not your core strength, go home on the weekend on your own time, spend a couple of days, whether it's online videos, training for free, whether it's through textbooks, you know, get up to speed a little bit and expect to do some of that investment in yourself. The employers and budgets are not such that they can afford to have you sitting on a project for a week while you learn to tie your shoes. You have to do that homework yourself, especially if you're moving into a neighboring niche area. The only other thing I would say in terms of getting into the business is last year I hired a person. I had an ad out for 10 days. I received 150 applications, and I was shocked, and I have to report 135 of those applications were absolutely terrible, like so shockingly bad. I was pretty appalled. You know, people who would misspell wastewater on their resume. So that's your core area. You're supposed to be an expert in that, and just plain sloppy. So I would say take the time, personalize every interaction. So only 10% of the people personalize cover letters, and they stand out. And the other 90%, they hit the shredder pretty fast. I looked at every one. I responded to every single person who applied. But you know, mostly they were terrible. So the 10% that stood out, the 15, you know, that made my job really easy. So if you're looking to get into it and you're looking for work, remember you're hunting with a rifle, not a shotgun. You're much better off, I think, to put the effort into a small number of opportunities rather than papering the internet with your resume.
Okay. The next question that we have is, how do you determine your worth? And I'll turn it over to Meredith first.
The trickiest question of all. Determining your worth can be very challenging. It certainly requires some research. Thankfully, at this point in our industry, we have EcoCanada, who's done some great research in a number of fields and can provide you with some information about kind of what's the average rate for your kind of work. But Part of determining your worth has to do with some careful introspection about stage of career, how badly you want something, how much time it's going to take you to build an opportunity, how much business development cost is required. So I have generally 3 different rates that I charge my clients, depending on the length of the project, depending on the amount of business development time that's required to get it up and running, how much technical expertise is required, what my financial liability is on the project. But all of that has taken me 15, maybe now 17 years to figure out. For me, determining your worth is the first step is understanding what's normal in the industry, and the second step is a very, very personal decision for yourself about what a certain opportunity means to you. Are you willing to work for less to take an opportunity, or are there other fish to fry, and so you're going to set your bar really high? I'm sure that there are other more technical ways to go about this, but that's how I do it. Also, over time, you will get a sense over a number of years. If I put in a proposal at X number of dollars per hour in this particular market, I'm going to get crucified. But in another market, I could easily put in a proposal at X number of dollars per hour, and it will be perfectly acceptable. So ask a lot of questions, connect with your colleagues, ask them very uncomfortable questions about what do they charge, and what's their proposal success rate.
Great. Bill, what are your thoughts on that? How do you determine your worth?
Well, I work for a multinational, so I don't get to do that. But anyways, at some point I took the job. At some point I took the job, and they made me an offer, and I accepted it. But really, in sort of the large consulting engineering companies, they tend to rely a bit on industry surveys, so APEGA or PEG-NB or wherever you're from, all those professional organizations do salary surveys, and you can look in there. But you can be fooled quite easily by these things because people don't always tell the truth, number one. And number two, people that are real proud of what they make tend to answer these surveys more often than people that aren't. So they tend to overestimate what actual salaries are. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Large companies tend to try to stay in the median range of salary survey values. We tend to these days use title and benefits as carrots as opposed to direct compensation. I think what's important here is to remember that, certainly in a large company, most companies, your value to the company is based on recent performance and somewhat on unique skill sets and other values that you add to the company and to projects that they might be taking on.
Great. How about you, David? How do you determine your worth?
Well, I'll answer that from the employee perspective a little bit. Bill mentioned the salary surveys done by the professional associations. I think that's a great way for people to do their homework. I know that at one small firm, I was the guy pulling the spreadsheets together and submitting that data for our office of about 25 people, for example. So that's an excellent way to get some benchmark data, but quite right. A lot of time that's out of context. What somebody makes in an expensive center like downtown Toronto will be a lot different than what someone makes in a rural area or a smaller town like Owen Sound, things like that. And so being able to interpret that data and to dig into that, I think that's very useful. That's where mentors can come into play. People who, as Mara said, have been in the industry 15 or more years, have a bit of a sense of what's an appropriate rate for this person for this type of task. Additionally, other data sources where people can look at is we have the Sunshine List here in Ontario. So public sector employees who are over 6 figures, more than $100,000, that salary data is public. You can go on the internet and find that. So if you're looking at someone who's making 6 figures, you can look up engineering staff, for example, at your local municipality and understand how many people are at that 6-figure bar. Not that you're going to be there, but you understand where those people are. And then you can look at the salary surveys and look at new grad salaries, and you interpolate somewhere in between, and you'll get an approximate range. So that's one way as an employee. I think one of the ways in interpreting your worth or your value to the organization, Bill hit it on the head. You have to look at your billing rate. What can you go out to in the market for? And depending on your specific technical niche, it might be a very modest hourly rate. As a field technician, I've seen companies billing end users $50, $60 an hour. So typically speaking, the staff member would be 1/3 of that. So if you're billing at 60, $20 an hour is maybe about the most you can expect. Conversely, for specific niche areas and specific technical expertise, it can be, of course, much, much higher than that. So there are some data sources, but interpreting those with the help of a mentor is the best way I would suggest.
Craig, can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
I think that it's worth acknowledging here that there continues to be a significant gender-based pay gap in the environment industry, like in most industries. And I've been very, very lucky to be mentored by some strong men and some very strong women. And I think that particularly for young women entering any career, there's of course a requirement, as there is for everybody, to be humble and accept that you are at the beginning of your career and you are probably not going to walk into a 6-figure job right off the hop. That generally needs to be earned, but also to be to have self-confidence and to know that you know how good you are and you are worth it, and it's okay to be brave and a little bit bold sometimes. Generally, I think for young women, when they think they're being very bold with salary expectations or asking for wages, they're probably just coming in line with industry standard. The data seems to suggest that. So. Right.
Interesting point, Meredith. Thank you. So do you find then that, like, within consulting, that mentorship is important?
Extremely important. As an independent, I often work physically alone, despite the fact that I'm coordinating teams. Having mentors to help you navigate not necessarily the technical aspects of consulting, but the day-to-day administration, how to be a consultant. Having seasoned mentors is absolutely essential to solving problems with your clients, to figuring out how to advance your career, how to engage a client when things are going sideways. I suppose you could do this alone, but I wouldn't recommend it. Developing mentors and asking them straight up, I really need a mentor. We've got a good working relationship. Would you mind if I leaned on you from time to time? People are extremely receptive to this. So if you meet someone great, take the time to ask them if they will mentor you.
Okay. Thank you. So the last question that I have before we turn it over to our participants' questions is, what can everyone do in the next 30 days to boost their career opportunities? I'll turn it over to David.
Thanks, Ray. I think the immediate thing, if you've not already done it, is to join 2 professional associations. One being within your discipline. If you're a biologist, if you're a forestry person, whatever your technical area is, be part of one of those associations. That's a great source to receive technical information and keep up to date. The other one is maybe a little less intuitive, is to join a customer-oriented group. So whether that's a land development or real estate service-based organization. If you go to a professional meeting and everyone's biologist and everyone's talking to other biologists, that's great. But it's much better for your career if you go to a professional organization and you become known as the biologist in a room full of real estate people. So suddenly when they do have an issue, they know at least one person that they can call. So joining an organization, I think, is key. And then getting involved in that organization, volunteering your time, spending your Saturdays, spending your evenings for free, working with that organization, getting to meet other people, develop a reputation as being reliable, hardworking, and trustworthy. Hopefully that's not too much for 30 days.
We're just about to turn it over to the attendees' questions, but Meredith or Bill, do you guys want to add anything to those thoughts?
I have two things that are maybe a little bit, might feel a little bit esoteric, but I think are important. The first, and I don't know if the others will disagree, but if you can, if you are not confident that you are a very skilled writer, take a writing course. For goodness sake, it is so important. You are going to be emailing people every day. You have to be able to organize your thoughts. If you can't say to yourself right now, I'm an excellent writer, go and develop those skills. They will serve you very, very well. And the next thing I would say is, whatever the next meeting is that you're going to or your next opportunity, walk into that room with at least 3 questions about the organization or the project pre-prepared. You need to demonstrate interest in your clients, your customers, your potential employers. Taking the time to think about what you need to know from them is an active listening skill. It's a very important part of relationship building. Never go to a meeting again without at least 3 questions prepared.
Thanks, Meredith. And Bill, I think you had some thoughts as well.
Yeah, well, I'll chime in a little bit about what Meredith said, because when you talk about writing skills, your boss, almost every time he sees something you did, it'll be something you wrote. And if I'm your boss and I got to rewrite it, I'm starting to wonder what you're worth to me. I'll tell you that much. Other than that, like just from a larger company perspective, I'll give it to you in the next 30 days. You can boost your career opportunities by, number 1, talk to your boss and other managers about the fact you want to advance. Be specific. Talk about what direction or path you want your career to take. Do you want to go technical? Do you want to go management? Make sure people know what you're looking for, because we're not mind readers. We can't tell by looking at you. Have a plan. Basically, and this echoes a little bit of what Meredith and David said, which is never show up with a blank sheet of paper. That goes for any discussion with a manager. I want to see your initiative and your problem-solving skills and reward you for creativity and resourcefulness. I don't want you to show up and go, oh, I got this problem. Yeah? So, what are you going to do about it? You know, that's my answer to that question, to that somebody walking in and saying things like that. So you got to be on your toes, on the ball, and show people that that's where you're at.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Bill. So we have had some great questions come throughout this session, along with some really good conversations that are currently happening. So please feel free to ask questions. It should be on the right-hand side. You'll see a little chat area. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask a few that came through. The first one being, what are the environmental concerns of future environmental consulting professionals with regards to water resource management? And Meredith, I'll have you answer this one.
I'm sorry, I have to confess that I was distracted by the questions in my Q&A box. Can you please repeat your question? How mortifying.
Definitely. Yeah. What are the environmental concerns of future environment consulting professionals with regards to water resource management? And we'll start with you.
I can only speak from my own experience. There are many, many answers to this question. From my perspective, the top area of concern is in climate-related implications for water supply and demand. There is just going to be no end to work in this field. I would say for many, I'm thinking specifically about my municipal clients. Obviously, water quality is an ongoing area of concern, but I think water quantity is going to start to become an increasing area of concern. We're starting to get stuff, for example, out of the Great Lakes around water quantity and availability, First Nations communities. If you're working in water, you are going to be busy.
Dave, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure thing. From my experience, and unfortunately it's an area that I don't work in very much, is stormwater. The extreme weather events, there's a lot of data on that. The designs for stormwater, for flood mitigation, residential, industrial development. 100-year storm is a standard design storm that engineers use to design stormwater infrastructure. However, we're finding that the 100-year storm that everyone is using has now changed. So what we used to design for is no longer enough to protect, and we are really struggling as a technical community to understand what design parameters we should put in the calculations. The calculations are fairly straightforward. It's knowing what data to put into it, which is the hard part. And so anything to do with stormwater, I think, is tremendously of interest for the coming years. And flood control, flood management, there are areas in Toronto that are property prices have plummeted because you can't buy insurance on your house and because they flood so frequently because of extreme rainfall events. We see 100-year storms happening 4 times over the course of one summer. That's not how it's supposed to happen according to the textbooks, but that's what's going on. So I think that's an excellent place for people to spend some technical time working in that for water resources.
And Bill, can you provide any insights? Oh, sorry, Bill, we can't hear you. That's okay. I'll move on to the next question and we can jump back to that. In recent years, more infrastructure projects such as oil and gas and transit are gravitating in major cities such as BC and Alberta and in Quebec. Do you see any similar improvements in suburban markets in suburban markets and other less populated provinces? And then, Bill's online, so maybe he can answer this question as well as the one previously, if there's any further insights.
Well, I'll tackle the one previously. I was distracted by trying to get myself back online here. Didn't hear the other one. In terms of the water resource industry, I think I agree exactly what David and Meredith were saying. Climate change is changing everything in terms of certainly stormwater, but also water quality, and the whole industry is sort of being turned on its head. We've got some sort of rules of thumb that we're dealing with in stormwater, 100-year plus 20%, but that's not the real answer. The real answer has to be in developing appropriate hydrographs and having better long-term planning tools. We've gone through a period of a lot of contaminated site management. There's still a lot of contaminated sites out there. Brownfield development is an area that is going to be exciting in the years to come as industrial sites change over to residential sites and surplus federal lands, military lands, and that sort of thing start to be abandoned, and as the economy changes to more information-based economy, we're going to start seeing more and more lands that were previously industrial coming up for development. That's brownfield development.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, so the other question I had asked was, In regards to infrastructure, there's been a major growth in larger cities in BC, Alberta, and Quebec. Do you see any of the similar improvements in suburban markets or less populated provinces?
Well, living in one, I can tell you that certainly there's quite an emphasis on infrastructure development here in New Brunswick and in Nova Scotia. A little bit in PEI, and the trend is kind of reversed right now in Newfoundland because of the economic struggles they're having there. Certainly with the federal program coming online, less populated and poorer provinces are looking to capitalize on the federal portion of infrastructure grants, and so I think you will see areas, small towns, small province, et cetera, start to invest more and more in infrastructure as long as those programs exist.
Perfect.
Working with, I work exclusively with small communities. Infrastructure is obviously pressing. I don't think that there is an environmental issue that I have worked on through the sustainability lens that has not required that I build knowledge in a particular type of infrastructure. So, for example, when I started my water conservation program, working with 26 municipalities in my region, that effectively became an infrastructure management program very, very quickly. There is an incredible demand for infrastructure support in small communities. Working with large firms can be challenging for very small communities. And so if, as an independent consultant with technical expertise in infrastructure, I think you are uniquely positioned to provide cost-effective, caring, personalized service really directly in very small communities. If you're happy to get out of the bigger centers and live in rural areas, there's a massive opportunity there.
Thanks, Meredith. That's great just to hear from both of your point of views. The next question, there's quite a few that are coming through right now in regards to PD, or developing their soft skills as well as some of the technical skills that you guys had mentioned. And I'm going to bring this one to Dave, but the question is in regards to developing soft skills, are there any suggested resources, especially in the financial, technical writing, management, and PD areas that you can share?
Let's see, on the specific course, for example, Bill and I both, I'm a big fan of the Dale Carnegie programs, and specifically because that's face-to-face training, it's practice. It's practice standing in front of people and talking and getting feedback. And, like musical performance, you can't read about it, you can't learn it watching a video online, you actually have to stand up and do it. And so for that, confidence is important to build relationships and to perform in a business development situation. If you're pitching a proposal and you're meeting a client for a client interview and there's going to be 3 consultants coming in, one after another, if you stand up and you're not sure, or you present that you're not sure about your potential solution, that confidence will come through. That lack of confidence, will translate into losing that bid. So I think definitely communication skills that way would be important, and Dale Carnegie is an excellent opportunity. It does cost money though, and not a small amount. I did it. I reached into my own pocket and paid myself. Training budgets are not ever getting bigger. Additionally, things like Toastmasters and things which are different economically speaking, those are good opportunities to practice. Being able to practice putting together articles and doing podium presentations at conferences. Perhaps that's in the future for you. That's something you can strive towards. Things you can do in the short term is you can look to smaller venues, you can look to regional conferences, you can look to presenting issues and ideas, say about stormwater management to your local chamber of commerce, and those are free lunchtime or evening events, and they're usually fairly interested to have speakers talk about things that are of interest to that community. So that's business development. Financial management. I don't think I have a really solid answer for that. There are a number of programs that are typically specific to large consulting firms where they run through consulting industry math. And so that's where that's very specific. So that's a lot harder to get. I think that how I learned that was through a mentor who showed me things little by little over a lot of years, and that helped to supplement the large company training programs that went through as part of the organizational management, financial management, and risk management of that organization. I don't know, does anyone else have a specific recommendation on financial management courses or training?
I think I would recommend a project management course for developing some preliminary skills in developing budgets related to timelines, related to deliverables or outputs. I think that project management certification is a decent long-term goal for any consultant. The other thing that I would say is ask if you can participate with your colleagues within a team. You know, if you're tasked, you're entry level, you're tasked with a very certain or narrow set of outputs on a project, ask your colleagues if you can participate in some of their thinking on different parts. Who's your project manager? Can you ask them if you can look into their budget and begin to understand how it's set up and how it affects the work that you're doing? I think that many of these skills are earned over time, but a very deliberate approach to earning them will generate benefits immediately, not only in relationship, or also in relationship building.
Thank you so much for that information. That's great insight. And if anybody wants to kind of try out some courses on a high level, there are different webinars that we offer as well, and just some online training. It is more of an introductory junior level style course, but definitely something to look at in regards to project management or technical writing. So we're going to have 2 more questions, and then the other questions we will definitely answer. We're just going to take them offline, but we are running out of time here. One question I have, and there's been a few different ways that it has been asked, is when it comes to setting yourself apart, how would you differentiate or see the standout candidates, both in cover letters, resumes, but also when they're doing interviews? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's have Bill answer that one for now.
Okay. Well, David mentioned, you know, customizing cover letters. I think that's really quite important. You got to look at the job description. You got to look at what people are going to be expecting you to know, and bring it out in one page that says, "This is what I know, and this is how it relates to what you need me to do." I think that's very important in terms of getting into the interview. In the interview, it comes down to a lot of things we've already talked about. Being assertive, being direct, you know, look people in the eye, make sure that people, you know, that you exude that confidence. It's always a fine line between confidence and arrogance, but you know, me personally, I'd rather have someone who's overconfident that I can work with than someone who's not going to have the confidence to move forward with developing solutions and building relationship with clients and that sort of thing than the other end of the spectrum.
And Meredith, do you have anything to add to that?
No, or yes, I do. I agree with Bill's comments. Of course, they seem very common sense. If you need to be told to customize your cover letter, you need to go back to the drawing board. You have to pay attention to what your potential employer wants from you, not what you want from them. It's very, very important. This is true for any relationship that you're trying to build. I have a funny comment that was given to me a number of years ago that has proven to be extraordinarily important in my success in interviews, in my ability to win proposals, and it's a potentially arrogant question, requires some delicacy in delivering, but an excellent question to end an interview with, because it gives you an opportunity to fill in the blanks. Is there anything that I have said today or not said today that leaves you wondering if I am fully qualified for the position? It gives you a chance to come back and highlight some real strengths and to address any niggling doubts that your interviewer may have very directly. It requires some serious confidence to deliver that one, but it's been very, very useful. It was a good bit of advice.
And through personal experience, I can say that I do actually ask that question or wait for that question when I'm doing interviews for jobs. So it's something that I look out for in new hires to see if they have that confidence or if they see if there's anything that they feel that they could bring to the table for us. So I agree with you 100%. Dave, just to add a little bit more to this question, we did have something specific on the soft skills. So someone had asked if they do feel that they bring a lot of strong soft skills to the table, is there something they could do to elevate that within the cover letter or even in performance reviews?
I think, well, I'll highlight that soft skills, from my perspective, are secondary. You still need to have a very solid foundation, either in depth or breadth of the technical skills and your domain expertise. The soft skills, bringing those forward in a cover letter is certainly more nuanced, and you would demonstrate and you would prove that you have good soft skills by writing an excellent cover letter. It's a fairly circular argument, I have to admit. The cover letter, if you can give an example in 3 sentences or less of where you were able to use some of your relationship skills or your listening skills to help a past employer or to help on a particular project or assignment. In the interview is where you will be demonstrating your soft skills from the moment you get out of your car in the parking lot till the moment you drive away down the road. Everything you do will be demonstrating your soft skills for good or ill, how you interact with the receptionist or whoever lets you in the door, right through the whole interview process. That's a tough question. Looking at the soft skills and how you establish rapport with people depends partly on the interview process itself. I'm familiar with interview processes where historically I've done team interviews where we have senior people and technical people, and then we have candidates meet some of the junior and intermediate team members so that you would know who your colleagues are going to be, who am I going to be working with every day. And these might be people that are more junior than you, more senior than you at peer levels, and how that interaction goes and the vibe that those people are left with is an important part of the decision-making criteria.
So then, in your experience, what differentiates someone who's really good at their job from someone who's exceptional in a similar role?
Really good from exceptional. I think, let me think about that for a moment. It's an excellent question. The exceptional candidate is 3/4 of the way there most of the time. Bill brought up the example, nobody wants someone to come to them with a blank sheet of paper, a question, and a blank look on their face. And like Bill, my answer is always the same. You've been thinking about this for 3 days. you've thrown this at me for 30 seconds. Well, what have you been thinking about for the last 24 hours that you've been working on this project? Come to me with 3 ideas, and I can help prioritize them or say, we've tried this before and it worked or didn't work or whatever, but come to me with something. So the exceptional candidate, the exceptional practitioners will come with a fairly well-formed solution that's actually most of the way to the final solution already. They'll come with 3 different ideas. They have an opportunity to think out of the box. The exceptional folks will come with something, and I'll say, oh, that's a great idea. I didn't think of that. You know, let's take your idea. Let's take that path.
Just to add to that, it may sound contradictory, but I don't intend it to be at all. I think an exceptional employee, consultant, human being is one who has confidence in their field, is very comfortable saying, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question. Either I know where I'm going to find out, or who's able to say, can you tell me more about that so I can think about it a little bit further. But that ability to confidently and humbly say, I really don't know the answer to that, because arrogance is a real killer. It makes it very difficult to work in a collaborative field-like environment if you are arrogant. And so I think that I don't know is as important as, yes, I do know and I'm ready to provide solutions.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I think being able to say confidently that I don't know does display confidence, and coming with ideas, having thought about it and having something, but certainly being receptive to discussing ideas and receiving input. Those are all key things. Environmental, I think more so than some other disciplines, is definitely a team sport, and there will be practitioners with lots of different technical fields weighing in on every project, and there'll be facets that no one person will be an expert in everything. And so being able to have some rudimentary ideas and at the same time being able to accept input from others is certainly very important for sure.
And Bill, is there anything you'd like to add in?
I think they've covered it pretty well. It just comes down to you've got to be able to express yourself well and get your point across without you know, sounding like you're talking down to people. Well, at the same time, you know, promoting your ideas. I would agree with David in that I've worked with exceptional young people before, and it always amazes me, and I've had this happen before, and it sounds like you have as well, David, is, you know, you're trying to resolve a problem and you're thinking conventionally, and then you have some smart young person say, well, why do you do it that way? Why don't you do this? And then you go like, huh, good point. Let's try that.
Right.
And that's so much fun when that happens.
Definitely.
Well, I'd like to thank you, all 3 panelists, Meredith, Dave, and Bill, for all your insights today. It's been a great webinar series. As I mentioned, we unfortunately were not able to get to all the questions in the time. However, we have made note of them, and we will definitely respond to them offline with hopefully the proper answers. And definitely, if you have any other questions that come up, please email us at info@eco.ca. Again, that's info@eco.ca. So again, thank you all for attending, and thank you to Meredith, Dave, and Bill. And we will have this recording sent to you guys within the next couple of days.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Excellent. Thanks, Yana. Thanks, Craig.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.